Now today we will gonna play on Oracle VirtualBox Manager. Now we will gonna install the Windows Server 2012 R2. So we are using the Oracle VirtualBox Manager for some reason. First is that this VirtualBox is for free, and of course the company is big enough to be able for them to assure the quality of this software. Now first we have to do is to prepare an image for the operating system. First we need to do is to prepare an image of your prepared operating system. In this case we will gonna prepare the Windows Server 2012 R2, which is 64-bit. And remember, the image must be in a file format of ISO. What is virtual machine? Virtual machine is basically a computer inside of a physical computer, a virtual computer inside of a physical computer. You can have multiple virtual computer inside your host or physical computer if you have enough resources. For example, you have a 32 GB of RAM and i7 processor or Intel Xeon processor. Now what is the purpose of virtualization, machine virtualization? So machine virtualization is pretty common and popular on web server or VPS. So you can sell your resources into the internet. Basically you are selling an 24/7 live computer on the internet, but only big companies can do that. I know that but some, which is a professional that has a background experience on the related matters, can do this in their own. But for newbie or noob, please don't start without researching what are all the consideration that must be established before you start your web server or web hosting server. So let's start. So you have the operating system image. All you need to do is to click on new. A new window will create, virtual machine window will pop up, and you have to enter the name. Note that if you enter a related name here, the machine or the VirtualBox will automatically assign an operating system that is related to the name. So a little bit innovative in this one, thanks to Oracle Virtual Machine. So I will name this, for example, tutorial, and we will pick the target operating system, which is the Windows Server. All of the Windows operating system will appear here, but we must find the Windows Server 2012. 2016 is also supported, but we have the 2012 R2. So click 64. Because I have 16 GB of RAM, at least I can give it a 4 GB of RAM. So remember that you should not at least assign 2000 or exact 4000. Memory should be assigned in their allocated memory, which is for 1 GB it's 1024. For example, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096. So I have 16 GB of RAM, as you can see here, so we can use that one. Depending on your resources, you can set this one, but I want to set this to just to make the virtual machine a little bit responsive. So tutorial, YouTube, or just a tutorial. Now create, you can set on guided mode, but I prefer the expert mode, which is currently set, because you can set lots of I could say it's a basic customization or basic settings. So let's click on create to be able to ask for us. By the way, in hard disk we must create a virtual hard disk, a file, basically a file that will handle all of the operating system that will be stored on your host computer, that will also be used by the virtual box to be able to render all of the operating system files. So let's create. Now, there are lots of options here. BDI is a default or the native disk image of VirtualBox. We have BHD, BMDK. Personally, if I don't mind creating or moving the operating system to a physical computer, I choose the BDI or the VirtualBox disk image. But if I have a plan to have, for example, I don't want to use VirtualBox to open the image, I can use the BHD, because BHD is like an ISO file that can be mounted on using the daemon software. The daemon software that can mount ISO file as if they are a DVD or optical drive. So but for this tutorial, we can choose BDI. Now, the default file size of the hard disk, virtual hard disk, is 50 gigabyte. So, but I think we can make it 120, because we will try to check the dynamically allocated. What is the difference between two of this to benefit from this? For example, our only remaining memory, the only remaining storage for our host hard disk is 200. It's okay to set this to 120 even you're running out of memory, because dynamically allocated is, even it's a 120 gigabyte, but the content of this is inside the virtual computer, the virtual machine, is only 20 gig. That would be 20 gig only, because the size of the file image, later on I will show you the file. So fixed size, no matter how many file is stored inside the virtual disk, the file will be always 120 gig. So we don't want that. We want the dynamically allocated. So just click on create. Before we click on create, this is very important. Sorry, I'm a little bit organized on explaining things. It should be top to bottom and left to right, but my explanation is a little bit ramble. But just take note, that's file location. Where would be the virtual hard disk be saved? So by default, it will be saved onto the C drive, or to the location where you install the VirtualBox, but I don't want that. I want to install it to a custom pathway or custom destination directory. I want to storage and application and VirtualBox, just to be organized. And as you can see, it is a file name of a file type of a BDI, virtual disk image tutorial. We call that tutorial, and click save. And then, so that's the file location. All things set in creating virtual hard disk. So let's create it. The virtual machine is initially created, and let's try to show you the location of that file and what it looks like. So as you can see, this is the file. Even this virtual hard disk is 120 gig, it is only 2 kilobytes of file size on our host computer, because that virtual hard disk doesn't contain anything. So that is the purpose of dynamically allocated. On fixed size, it should be 120 gig even though it's empty inside. So we only use dynamically allocated. We ungroup this one. By the way, you can always create groups just to make your virtual machines organized. So let's click on group, and you can also rename this group, and let's rename this for YouTube. Just click. Before we boot the operating system to this machine, let's click on settings just to check all of the settings before we start installing the operating system. Okay, share to clipboard, so that bidirectional, so you can copy from your virtual machine to your host computer, or host computer to your virtual machine. So but you can have just one direction to inbound and outbound here, host to get guest and guest to host, but we want to choose bidirectional. Description, you can have description just to make your virtual machines a little bit more organized and informative. This, for example, this virtual machine is used for YouTube tutorials. This encryption, we don't want that to enable. Systems, so we want the 4 gig of RAM, and we don't want floppy disk. Just keep this all to default. And I have 4 CPUs because my CPU is i3. I think we can use 2 CPU. Just keep this one to default. Acceleration default. Display, what about display? We don't want this, just to keep our resources intact. Remote display, we don't want that, but we can enable this to be able for us to access this virtual machine from other computer if this host computer is publicly available either locally or on the internet. Video capture, this is for recording while you are making tasks. So next is storage. So by creating or initializing virtual machine, the virtual machine initially created the main hard disk, which we named it tutorial.bdi. You can always change or load a previously created virtual disk, such as this. I created this before, or you can always create a new virtual hard disk. And this one is for the operating system. This is from its logo. This is an optical drive emulator. So you can have this one can serve as if you have an optical disk in this virtual machine. And click on this one to find the file where it's located, but here it's currently saved from the previous task because I installed a Windows Server from the different virtual machine, so I can always click this for a shortcut. Now that the Windows operating system is currently on the optical disk, it is ready now to boot. But let's check all of the setting. Now click on audio. Basically on Windows Server we don't need audio, so we disable this one just to maximize your system resources or hardware resources. Click on network. We don't want NAT, we only want the bridge, so that the local network of this virtual machine will be similar as of the host computer. Not basically similar. For example, 192.168.1.202 is the IP of the host computer. The guest computer or the virtual machine local IP will be 192.168.1 or 22254, except the IP that is occupied by the host computer or other computer that has served. So we want the bridge. We can have multiple adapter, but we only want one adapter. This adapter is like a network card. For example, you have multiple network card, you can emulate it here. Serial bus, this is for the COM ports of your computer at the back. Here you can have multiple USB controller. For example, you inserted a USB on your host computer and you want it to connect on the virtual machine and to be able to be visible as if you plug a USB into the virtual machine. Shared folder is you can have a folder from your host computer that will be visible as a network location into the virtual machine. Later on, all of my explanation will be visually demonstrate. I just explained just to be able for you to have a background of what we were gonna do later on. So all in all, this tutorial is all about virtualization, and we have lots to learn here. Now it's a good to know as a programmer or a web developer to have your own, to play with a VirtualBox manager. But on my personal preference, my plan is to have this as emulator for instead of having my live server, this will be a local DNS server for my web development or server development. Again, going back, the shared folder is you can set the folder from the host computer, and I think all of the setting is complete. We check each important settings and let's click OK just to save the settings. Now the settings will be viewed here, as you can see. If we start this one, it should be able to the optical disk which has the Windows Server. Now let's click start, and it started on the last screen. Now it's automatically booted the operating system, which is Windows Server 2012 R2, and you can set the language and the basic installation process. And let's click next. By the way, you can repair a computer or recover just by using your backup here, and all we need as a fresh installation is to click install now, and setup is starting. Just patiently wait. Maybe lots of you also have a question here on standard. What is the difference between, first is what is the difference between server core installation and server with GUI? Server core installation is a server that is plainly a command prompt. If you're a guy that is a fan of CMD or SSH or something like a black and white user interface, you have a background knowledge for basic server commands, you can use the server core installation. But as a beginner or as an intermediate, I should prepare server with GUI. Why? Because GUI is graphic user interface. It means that the server has like a usual Windows 7 or Windows 10. It has a user interface. You can log in, you can you can download Chrome, you can have a Windows Explorer. It's basically like a computer, personal computer. Now, the second one is, what is the difference between standard and data center? So the main point, the main difference of these two operating system series is that standard is supposedly to be used by a small company or a person that want to host website, because it has the features of a regular web server, but it is not intentionally intended for large scale web serving, because data center is more on the large scale web serving. It focuses on the Hyper-V. So basically, what is Hyper-V? Hyper-V is like a VirtualBox inside the Windows server. You can also have a multiple instance of virtual machine, but in this case, please note that you cannot install Hyper-V inside an operating system that is handled by VirtualBox, because that will have a conflict, because VirtualBox is using our resources that is also should be using by Hyper-V, which is also a virtualization features. So you can only use Hyper-V into a host computer, a physical computer, a physical server. So for this tutorial, we want to use the data center. So to maximize the capability of where can this tutorial be going. So we can at least you can choose standard, but for me, for this tutorial to make it broad, I will choose data center. On my web server, I choose standard. So click next, wait for it, and of course accept the license term. Click next, and you can upgrade. I always choose custom. The disk is currently unallocated. We can create a new disk, so we can create a new partition. We can slice this into halves, but I want to at least create this as a one partition. And also Windows 7, from Windows 7 up to the latest version of Windows, always requires system disks. So it is automatically created, this 350 MB, and let's click this partition 2 as where we install the operating system. I don't know if this is recommended when after unallocated. It is recommended to format the disk, but as a perfectionist, I always want to make things clean. So if you know what is the best answer for this, whether to click it or not after creating new partition, please comment down below. So click next, and currently the system is operating system is installing. Let's wait. I will pause for now.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, click subscribe. More to come. Click here to play this video.